Hi, this is Jim Peters with Peters Principals, and as you know who you're going to get with Peters Principals or on Peters Principals, but today we have Dr. Salah Kofawi, who is a regular with us every month, and we're going to talk a little bit about testing in Lowell Public Schools. How's testing going? How are we showing?
Thanks. Thanks for having me. We just got the final results for the MCAS and Park. Some of our schools, as you know, took Park, and very happy to report that we had this past year, that my first year here, we had probably what amounts to the best year ever in the very recent past. It was an incredible year for the schools. It was progress all across. We had a really nice progress, particularly most schools did, almost every school did really well, did better. Some did fantastic. They did substantially better. We have moved from the time I came in July of 2015 until this year was, after this year was closed, we've been able to move 4 schools up. One, the Moody went from level 3 to level 2. The Bartlett, the Riley, and Lincoln went from level 3 to level 1. So
level 1 is best.
Yes, I mean level 1 and 2 are really kind of the same. Level 1, the only difference is the growth rate, but in terms of where they are, they pretty much, that's where you want your schools to be, either level 1 or 2. What differentiates them is really the growth rate. So might be the growth is faster then you would be level 1 as opposed to level 2. But in terms of placement, they really are the same. We currently have 7 level 1 schools, 7 level 2 schools, and 7 level 3 schools. And not only that, this is the first time that we have 2/3 of our school are where you want them to be. And the third that remains is, for the most part, the 7 other schools. We have 3 that we're working on, and 4 are exactly really at the edge of becoming level 2s or level 1s, depending on their growth rate. So we are extremely happy and pleased with the results.
Okay.
And I think teachers are working very hard. The credit goes to them, obviously, and their school leaders for working, and for all the support, the people who lend them support from central office. So all in all, the end of my first year, I couldn't be any happier. I couldn't be more pleased.
That's a good feeling.
Yeah, that's a very good feeling. At the end, that's what it comes down to. I mean, we like to do good things everywhere, whether it's management, whether it's community relations and family relations. You want to be good at everything, but what really matters at the end of the day is how well do we do with the students, by the students, how can we serve the students better? That's what it really comes down to.
So just out of curiosity, how did Bartlett do?
The Park?
Bartlett.
The Bartlett did very well. The Bartlett has actually been turned over mid-year last year to level 1, and did fairly well. They're still functioning at a level of 2 and 1, at the right where you want them to be, and I think they are working really hard to optimize their relationship, particularly with UMass Lowell, and they have a fantastic relationship, and I think all the great achievements that they've had, you can attribute quite a bit of that to the partnership with UMass Lowell.
Well, that's good. I asked about some specific schools because I know them, and I didn't have anything about the Bartlett. I just know the Bartlett, and it's down the street from me, so I was kind of curious as to how they did.
Yeah, they're doing good. I think if we continue on the same effort, the same trend, I will not be surprised that we're going to be able to turn about another 3 or 4 schools next year. And just like I said, when I came the first time, and I think I had discussion with you and with others on what are my expectations. You want to turn all the schools in 1 year, but it's not reasonable. You have to have some time to work with the schools, and usually it is always expected to have a minimum of 3 years as a plan.
So how many schools went up?
Right now, we went up from the time I came till now, we had 4 schools going up.
It's all right.
Yeah.
For-
Well, only they went up, but they went out of level 3.
Right.
We had more schools go up in rankings. We have 4 more schools go up. We have the Staplosa, we have the Shaughnessy. All these schools are really at the edge. I mean, the Shaughnessy is, I think they missed the level 2 label by 1%.
Oh, that's too bad.
It's-
That's
I mean, it could have been
frustrating.
there, yeah. So I have great faith. So that I think when we say 4 schools went up, it's a little bit misleading because we had more schools go up, much better in their much better growth and much better results. But 4 of them were able to do it to the extent that they were able to pull themselves out of the level 3.
That's great.
But we are very confident, and with that, we continue on the same trend, the same work, it all works together. You know, when you have the teachers working in partnership with the administration, and you don't have those, frustrations and those distractions, and people focus on the work to be done, that's how you achieve.
How is the building program or the survey going at Lowell High School?
The program started, as you know, this is the part where lots of data and information is collected for the feasibility study. This morning there was a very long session of what is termed as visioning, where they brought a group of as large as 60 people all across the community, schools, and where they would be talking about what does the community wants to see in its school. So that's where we mix people from all over, and they started their work this morning. Lots of data is going to be collected, lots of information is going to be collected, and I think the end goal we're looking at, the next phase, the next step is for them to start coming up with some recommendations. Sometimes around belief, I think when I met with the city manager and the folks, the architects and the folks from the States, I believe we're talking about around January, February, where they would come up with some initial recommendations. And then we start getting some of those answers as to where are we going to have this school.
Right.
Because that's all part of the feasibility study.
I am hoping the school is still downtown.
I think a lot of people think like you
Yeah.
do.
Yeah, I just think that it's good for the businesses downtown. It's good for the kids to be downtown in some of these businesses because and some of them get jobs and I run into Lowell High School all the time because you have a store downstairs.
Right.
And I buy Lowell High School T-shirts and whatever.
Yeah.
And it's really a remarkable thing to have a store operating in the downtown area that
It is.
run by students.
By students, it is.
So,
Very nice.
but that's one of the reasons I would like to see the school stay in downtown Lowell. The other one is that we have a pretty massive plant where we are, and what I hear is that the worst school in terms of repairs and falling apart, if I can use that term, is the 1983 school.
So I think, as I told many, I believe the state is going to have a huge say on this, and the probably the decision of the state revolves a lot more around funding too.
Right.
If the funding is similar, comparable, then I don't know what to tell you. It's going to be tough to call it. They'll be looking at other variables. But if the funding of renovation is substantially less than building a new one, I think that's going to pretty much influence the decision, and vice versa too. So these are the things that we'll look at. Not being an expert in construction or architect, so I'm not really sure what the feasibility study is going to tell us.
I see a high school that's taller than the one that we have now. That's the only thing that I can see. Another floor or so.
I know. Yeah, I'm eager to see. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I saw a map on somebody's desk, and it showed a taller high school, and it was really quite attractive. As you know, they just turned the shovels over for the judicial center.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I was there.
And that was exciting.
Yeah.
It's going to be very exciting when they dig for the high school, wherever that happens to be.
That would be a very exciting moment.
Mm-hmm. I'm hoping they stay away from the South Common because we don't have that much green space left in town. So, and that's just a personal thing. I wanted to ask you, because I've been immersed in this, what your thoughts on the question 2 are.
That's a really complicated problem in general, all throughout the states, and quite confusing. For us, it has even an added complication, an added meaning. When I say for us meaning being Lowell. In general, I think I'm hitting on both sides, and I think one thing that I really want to address is no, we do lose funding when kids go to charter school. I'm not really sure what people are saying, why they're coming up with their conclusion that public schools don't lose funding. We do lose funding.
Mm-hmm.
It's a simple math. If a kid goes somewhere else, the state send the funding to wherever they're going to educate those children. We do not get reimbursed sufficiently for them. And I think one thing that we really have to stress on, it's not just the absolute loss of funding, in terms of dollars, amount of dollars. That always hurts, obviously. But I think it's the relationship between your fixed costs and your variable costs. Mm-hmm. Yes, when a child goes to charter school, they'll take with them the variable costs, obviously. Mm-hmm. The variable costs could be maybe their portion of getting a teacher to teach them. They'll take some of those variable costs, but in our case, the cost structure is so complex. It's not as simple as in the factory where you're making goods and you know exactly what you're fixing, your variable are attached, reflect your cost of material. This isn't the case because some of our costs that tend to be maybe seen as variable, meaning teachers' costs. One will argue that, well, the more students, the more teachers, so therefore it's variable. It's not really that variable. It's what we call in statistics more like a stepwise regression. They regress in steps, not linearly. Let me explain. Is that because when we lose, say, well, currently we have about 1,000 students from Lowell going to charter schools. Mm-hmm. When you lose 1,000, and you lose them from all over the schools, not just from a specific area. One can make the argument and say, well, you got 1,000 leaving, so that means that less teachers you have to have. They have to have them on the other side, so the funding is transferred. But it doesn't really work all that way for us. As I said, some of the variables is true, but not all. If a classroom of 5th grade that has 25 students loses 3 students, you cannot reduce number of teachers. Mm-hmm. So your teachers rate initially could be conceivably seen as a variable cost. It's not true. It's a fixed cost to us because that mm-hmm. teacher is still going to be in the class. If those 3 kids were coming back, we're not going to increase the number of teachers because of 3 children. If you have a case where we don't have any of those cases, by the way, but if we had a case where the school loses an entire class of 5th graders, yes, you could make the argument to say, okay, their costs went away with them, so it's almost a wash. It's not true in our case because we don't have the people who go to charter schools, they go from everywhere. Mm-hmm. So all your schools pretty much are affected in some ways. So it makes it that much harder for us because when you take the funding of the kids that follows the children, we have fewer children, we have less funding, but our number of teachers, our number of administrators, our number of schools, the maintenance, the heat, the electricity, that doesn't change. Right. It remains the same. It's not proportional to the number of kids. The stuff that is very much highly regress to that, and that have a high correlation with that, and and is truly variable is the things like computers. Yeah, if we have 10 kids going away, that's 10 less laptops to buy. And we have things like textbooks, maybe 10 less textbooks to buy. But you look at that in our budget, it's a much smaller piece, and it doesn't really affect the budget too much. So to answer that question that I keep hearing everywhere, that we don't lose funding, yes, no, we do, and it really hurts us quite a bit in that. Now, having said that, the reason that I said the charter schools for us have an additional meaning, have an additional complications, or depends on how you look at it, is that it costs more, as the city auditor has
come out.
I wasn't in the meeting, but I read it on the news. I read his comments on the newspapers, and that it actually costs. I know from looking at our own funding, I know that it costs us more, because when the kids go, our budget gets taxed much higher than what we get reimbursed. And when you look at the net difference, it's higher than the individual cost per child that we get. So last year, just as a quick example, the net cost to us between what we pay out in school choice, the city of Lowell pays out for school choice, and what we get in is roughly $15 million. So even if you average about 1,000 kids, so you're looking at about 15 grand per child. Our kids don't cost us that much when they stay with us. Right. They only cost us, between what we get from the states and the city, around 12. So there's a differential of 3 grand per child right then and there. That is in addition to the other loss of funding that I was talking about, the fact that you now have to absorb larger costs of larger fixed costs with so much less. So that to us is where we get hurt financially. Now, are we against charter schools for what they're trying to do? No, I think we have the same mission. We're trying to educate kids. We're trying to offer choices to the parents, and I'm not against that. I'm just pointing out to the facts. The fact is, yes, those choices come at a high cost to us and to the community. The other thing also that I think is worthwhile pointing out in Lowell is that back in the 90s, Lowell did a really outstanding job in building schools and planning for the future. But that was the 90s. That was 20 years ago.
Right.
A lot of those schools are now requiring a lot of maintenance. And a lot of those schools now need to expand, need to fix. There's no funding for that. There's no funding to increase capacity. So at this point in time, if you were to tell me that the charter schools are going to close their doors and you're going to release 1,000 students back to us, we will be in a very serious problem. We wouldn't know how to deal with it, to be honest with you. Depending on what grades they come in, we have no capacity. If they come in elementary schools, maybe we're okay. Maybe we can pull it off. But if they come in the middle school, we're in trouble. We're in serious trouble. High school, elementary schools, we're okay. Middle school, as you know from last year's discussions, we were struggling to come up with a solution on how to handle the 5th grade bubble. Now that 5th grade bubble is going to move up to 6th grade next year, and then we're going to have, we always gain about, around 100, 150 kids that come in. So you have that natural increase, that yearly increase, if we continue in the same trend, and then you still have, how are you going to handle all those kids if they come out? We have no seats. We have no seats, and we have no more room in the budget to provide them with the textbooks, the equipment, the teachers, and so forth. So I think it's something that we need to. I know it's a separate problem. It's a problem of capacity. Will be with us regardless, whether we have those charter schools or not. But the fact that we have them, it's giving us a little bit of a breathing room on how to solve our problem. Now, one might argue, like, wow, that's a heck of a way of solving a problem of capacity. We should be sitting down and planning for the future, and I intend to do that. I intend to start discussions between us and the city and start talking very seriously about how do we build capacity for the future. Lowell is becoming year after year a very exciting place. Everybody's working very hard to make it look more and more attractive. If you know, I keep attending those meetings. Everybody's proud of Lowell, proud of what they're doing. The city's getting better and better. Well, when you do that, you're going to attract more and more people. And when you do, you're going to have more and more families that want to come in and relocate here with their businesses and so forth. So you can't continue only on looking at economic development without taking into consideration the school capacity. School capacity is a vital and crucial part of your economic development. You cannot have an economic development without a proper school capacity planning. It's just not going to happen. Not only capacity, but we're talking also programs and quality. So we work on the programs and quality. That's our job to do that. We will continue to do the best we can. But I think our partners, our close partners in the city and all the other community members need to sit down and start talking to us about capacity.
The Lowell Sun yesterday published, you referred to it, published findings that they were there were losses caused by charter schools, and the town city manager mentioned that you know I have street lights I have to put up, I have walk lights I have to put up, I have paving that has to be done, and it's being eaten up by this issue. The money's being eaten up by this issue, and I thought that was extremely.
That's powerful. Yeah,
Yeah, I thought that was very powerful.
I mean, I can see it. And look, it's no easy trip. I mean, I know he has an incredibly difficult job. I have the highest respect for him and what he's trying to do. And I think, in my opinion, I don't know him well, but I've known him for 1 year. I think he's doing a really outstanding job in keeping us afloat and doing the best he can. I know he's a great friend of the schools, and before me even, he was always a great friend of the schools and a big supporter. So I think he really is trying hard to work with us, and he's never said no to getting together, meeting, talking, planning. He's always open to that. So I know he has a very difficult job, but it's a job that he has to have the help of everybody else in the community. Everybody has to rally behind him, including us, in making sure that we make his job feasible and possible, because I know it's his job to provide the schools, not they're in charge, the city is in charge of providing the buildings, and we're in charge of providing the programs. But I think every one of us needs to rally and work together with the city manager and see how we can help him make sure that goal is achieved, because schools are not a cost. Schools are not a cost, schools are an investment. And I hear a lot of time people say, well, education is getting expensive. It's true. There's no way denying it. If you keep denying it, I think you're just wasting your breath in denying it. Education is getting expensive. However, if you think education is expensive, think what ignorance is. Ignorance is a heck of a lot more expensive. So I've got a choice between the two. I'll go with education all the time. I'll invest my dollars in education. Because if you look at the cost of educating a child, in Massachusetts, it's average of about $12,500. Compare that to the cost of keeping somebody in jail, which I understand, I'm not an expert, but I understand it's around $60,000 a year. That's the cost of educating 5 children. So if I can contribute in reducing that cost by educating them at an earlier age and investing to them, I think that's where the money needs to be going. And I know that's not a Lowell problem only, because we get 4/5 of our budget, of our funding comes from the state. It's really a state issue. But I think all of us need to be speaking and supporting that the state needs to pay more attention to investing in schools.
The Sun said that since 2007 to 2017's proposed budget, we have lost $10.3 million in the on the charter school issue, and I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah,
it's sobering.
it is. It's from what I understand, it's very close to the figure we had estimated ourselves from our own accounting. That's the difference. That's the differential. The difference between what it would cost when a child goes to charter school and as compared to when the child stays with us. That's the difference.
Just the final thing that I'd like to say about charter schools, this is written up in their literature, that their teachers are not certified. It says that the teachers are able to teach because they got a bachelor's degree in a certain area, and they're teaching in that area. But I heard that they're not certified, and that kind of.
I really don't know the details of that. I think I'm very busy dealing with our own regulations,
right,
and what we're required to do for the state.
Well, we're required to have certification.
Absolutely,
right?
Our teachers are all certified and qualified, and with the new regulation, they need to get the higher degrees as well within a certain amount of time. So they don't just get their degrees and stay put. They continually learn and keep. I mean, learning is continuous. It's a lifelong learning, as we call it. It happens all the time. Every year they have to produce a certain number of professional development points, which requires them to continually learning. And it's a hard work to be a teacher. It's not an easy work. People usually tend to look at the 6 hours or 7 hours that they spend in school. They don't look at how many hours they spend at home. They spend an incredible amount of time learning, which we don't pay them for. I mean, they have to continue. If they don't, then they'll fall behind. So they do that on their own time, on their own dime, and usually they pay for that. And they also, the amount of preparation that they do at home, I mean, we give them 1 hour prep a day. Anybody who knows anything about teaching will tell you there is no way they can do everything to prepare for 1 hour. That's just the 1 hour they prepare what they need to do for that day, but usually the core preparation of what they have to do for their class. And so they spend endless numbers of hours at home. I know that for a fact because I'm married to one of them, so I should know.
I'm married to one of them too, and I also taught for a number of years. And there was an incredible amount of, when I look at my old lesson plans, there was an incredible amount of knowledge that you had to partake of and give to the students. And it was very difficult to do because it really is. It's such a high level.
You know, I tell you, we get school members, community members, or school committee members to go visit school. We encourage them to do that. So they go do reading. And I was talking to one school committee member who said, I went out and read to some kids, and I was there for about an hour. I said, my God, it's exhausting. How does a teacher do that 6 hours a day?
Yeah.
I said, yeah, I think you only get to really feel it when you become a part of it.
Yes, that's true. Well, thank you very much for having us.
Thank you, my pleasure.
And it's nice seeing you. This has been Jim Peters, and this has been Peters Principals. And this is Dr. Salah Kafawi, the Superintendent of Schools. Thank you.
Thank you.